Hi, Mama. Happy Mother's Day. I just want to come here and visit your inbox and chat with you a little bit today about the holiday and celebrate you and tell you that I'm thinking of you today. And I'd love to know what you're doing today. So after you watch this video, go ahead and hit reply to the email and let me know how you're celebrating. Do you go out with your family and spend a day with your littles and with your hubby, or do you take a little bit of alone time, sneak away, go get a mani-pedi, or something else? So how do you celebrate today? I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to know exactly what you did. So at the end of the day, and after you read this email, reply back and tell me how you spent it. A lot of us have kind of different reactions to Mother's Day. Some of us might think, this is the best holiday in the whole world. It's all about us, and we finally get to celebrate and be recognized for everything that we do. Some of us may just see this as another commercial holiday, another reason to buy cards, candy, and flowers, and waste our money. And some of us may think it's kind of stupid, like, why do we choose one day out of the year to celebrate our moms and to be celebrated ourselves, instead of just treating mothers well all year long? And this day can also be hard for some people. Some of us may have lost our moms. Some of us may have ambivalent relationships with our moms. Or, if you're like me, you might have had a real struggle to even become a mom. And so Mother's Day can have kind of a different feeling for you and a different connotation for you. And I just want to tell you that all of that is okay. The way we feel about today, the way we choose to celebrate or not celebrate today, whether you spend today with your kids or whether you sneak off and spend today alone, however you do Mother's Day is perfectly fine. And I think that that's something that we kind of need to think about. We feel like we might have to kind of treat this day a certain way, and we don't have to. It can be however you prefer, and whatever makes sense for you, and hits you in the soul and gives you a day of what you need. And a lot of you may already know my story, but I'm just going to share it again today about my journey to motherhood, how it was difficult, and how I came through that, and how the More Than Mom, movement came from my journey to motherhood, which is, why we're all here and why we're all in this community is because in one shape or form, we believe in the More Than Mom movement. So, a lot of you know that I had to go through fertility treatment to have my baby, and my husband and I, 1 month, I was late for my cycle, and we were like, oh no, we're pregnant, and we sure as heck weren't ready then. It was very, very early in our marriage, like 2 months into our marriage, and we weren't ready at all, but whatever happened, happened. But we took a pregnancy test, and it turned out to be negative, and so I went into the doctor and kind of explained, I skipped a period, but I'm not pregnant. So they did, their more sensitive tests at the hospital, and they said, yeah, you're not pregnant. We don't know why you skipped a period. Let's do some tests. And, right after getting married is when I found out that we were going to have a fertility struggle. And it wasn't a fun journey, and every time we saw a different doctor, we got more bad news and more bad news, and we found out it wasn't only my problem, but my husband had an issue as well, and so we were facing the fact that we may never have biological children. And so we went down the road of fertility treatment, but at the same time, we started adoption classes because we knew we wanted to be parents. That was something that we bonded over before we were even married. We knew we wanted to raise a family, and we were sad that the chance of it being biological was going to be slim, but we knew that we could give a child a great life regardless. So we started adoption classes, and just the way of the world, the month we graduated our adoption classes is actually the month that we conceived as well. And that would just be kind of typical for us because that's just the way our lives always seem to work. And so we conceived my daughter, and the first trimester was extremely touch and go because conception was one hurdle, but actually carrying a baby was another hurdle for us. So, many, many ultrasounds in the first trimester, extra medical support and things like that. And so at 12 weeks, when we were released from the high risk and sent to a normal OB and were told that things were going to be okay, something kind of shifted in me, and I just became all about my baby, and everything I did was for her and to make sure that she was going to be okay and healthy and that I was going to carry her, and that she was going to have the best life. And so a lot of my needs and a lot of what my wants and my desires and my passions just flew out the window. And I think a lot of that is common for moms regardless of their conception story and their pregnancy story. The second we find out we're going to be moms, it's so easy for us to sacrifice absolutely anything and everything for our babies. And that certainly happened to me. And then the bad part about that is when my daughter was born, I continued a lot of that behavior, and she was also born with some health concerns, which, is no secret. Most of you know that as well. Granted, they've resolved, and everything that we thought might have been scary is actually turned out to be just fine. So it's no longer an issue. But because of that stuff, I quit my job as a licensed counselor and doing couples therapy and therapy for women. So at that time, I had not only just had my soul and everything, my being, been completely about this baby. I'd lost my job and my identity and all of those things. And so you can see where I'm going is that it just was straight down the tunnel to postpartum depression. And it was really ugly time, even though I'm a mental health professional and a counselor and I know all of this stuff, and you'd think I'd be able to kind of safeguard against depression or against anxiety. I certainly couldn't. And I was in a really dark place. And it wasn't until kind of a light bulb went off for me about the More Than Mom message that we're all here to spread, that I could be just as much of a mother, just as much of a guide and a support, and just as affectionate, just as maternal, as loving to my daughter, yet still build myself up and still have confidence and still have an identity and still believe in myself and my purpose at the same time. And that was okay. And actually for me and for her, it was actually better because I was a happier person. And that's where the Wristlot & Co. came from. And a lot of you already know that story, but I think it's important to know where our purpose comes from and why we're spreading the message that we're spreading. And so today, on this Mother's Day, I want you to remember that you are a whole person. And yes, you are a mother, and that's huge. And yes, we love our babies, and it's natural and it's in us to give everything to them. But ultimately, I think Mother's Day is about celebrating mom as a whole person. And as a whole person, that includes her dreams, her hopes, her wishes, her passions, her purpose, her business, any of those things. And so my wish for you today on this Mother's Day is that not only do you have a fantastic experience with your family, but I'd love for you to have a fantastic experience with yourself. Whether that means setting some time aside to just be completely alone and just sit and reflect. Take your coffee or your tea on the back porch and just be. Maybe that means going to the gym and doing a super extra hard workout that challenges you. Maybe that means closing your office door and dedicating yourself to your business for 1 solid hour with 0 mom guilt. whatever that is today on this Mother's Day, I hope that you can go ahead and do a little bit of that. Know that I am thinking of you and I am celebrating you today, as well as your families and everything that you've accomplished as a mom and as more than a mom. Have a great Mother's Day.